Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Okay, now this is crazy. How many more issues do we need to win on? How many more issues do we need to be right on for the political momentum and pendulum to finally start swinging? I mean, it's freaking Groundhog Day, or I'm a broken record, whatever it is. I say the same things all the time, and of course I know people tell me that in the comment section, but what else am I supposed to say? It's the same freaking narrative. It's the same recurring kind of dynamic or situation over and over again with these leftoids. Every single week, it seems as though they're backtracking on some sort of issue. Once it becomes politically inconvenient or a political detriment, once it finally starts to backfire, then all of a sudden, here we are, saying the same damn thing each and every single time. We told you so. How many issues is that so far? You know, these Democrats want to die on that hill. They take that stance. Whatever an ideological, naive, sort of compassionate posturing policy it is. The most obvious example, like every single video, we're gonna defund the police. Fast forward 2 years later, after crime spikes to the highest level since the 1990s, all of a sudden, every Democrat and their mama is talking about how we need more police officers and bigger budgets. In the span of 2 years, they went from cut the budget of these racist, white supremacist, abusive police officers. 2 years later, we need more police officers. Well, this time it's the border. No person is illegal. We must open the border and grant asylum to the world's poor. And anyone who disagrees with that notion is a racist and a bigot. Look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez crying in front of this parking lot. Can you live with yourself, Republicans? That was basically the narrative coming from Democrats for the last 7 years, and especially over the last 2.5 years. Joe Biden takes over the White House. First thing he does, signs executive order after executive order, slashing every single Trump border policy, and of course halting construction on the wall. Joe Biden and Democrats multiple times refusing, we are not going to build a wall. We are not going to continue to build Trump's wall.
Trump campaigned on build that wall. Are you willing to tear that wall down?
No, there will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration.
Are you willing to come up and give him some of this money for the wall? Because apparently that's the sticking point.
No, nothing for the wall. We're talking about border security.
Nothing for the wall, but that means it's
well,
a
we can go
non-starter.
through this all, back and forth. No. How many more times can we say no? Nothing for the wall.
No, we're never gonna do that because that's racist and Trump's racist. Yeah, well, now they're doing it. Yep, they're doing it. Not a joke, not fake news. Just here we go again. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so you heard that right. Apparently, Joe Biden is now considering building the wall. Department of Homeland Security Secretary reverses on Biden pledge, authorizes border security to, quote, build the wall. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas stated on Wednesday that the United States has an urgent and pressing need to construct a border wall in southern Texas, and he issued an order suspending some of the nation's most renowned environmental protection laws in order to expedite construction. I'm honestly at a little bit of a loss for words on this one. After a nearly 8-year gaslighting campaign, pointing the finger at Trump, but not just Trump, but all of us, saying we're racist, we're anti-immigrant, no compassion, we don't care about human life, we're terrible, deplorable, horrible people who should be exiled from society. After 8 years of saying that, now all of a sudden we're right. Of course, they're not going to tell us that we're right in public. No, they're going to secretly change the policy behind the scenes as they realize that now all of a sudden there's an urgent need for a border wall. You know, the same border wall that they were openly calling for in the early 2010s.
I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
Real reform means stronger border security, and we can build on the progress my administration's already made, putting more boots on the southern border than at any time in our history.
It was perfectly acceptable to mention a border wall back then, but then when Trump said it, all of a sudden, things became political now, didn't they? Now, policy and basic common sense didn't make sense. Trump was a clear grassroots threat to the status quo, and so anything that Donald Trump stood for had to be vehemently opposed because it was no longer good policy versus bad policy. It was no longer what works versus what doesn't. It was the establishment versus Donald Trump, and so anything anything Trump, anything even remotely Trump adjacent, must be fully rejected, must be demonized, attacked, and destroyed. How utterly ridiculous. I mean, what a slap in the face. Let's see what the logic here is. Karine Jean-Pierre was, of course, asked many questions on this issue.
How is this consistent with what President Biden pledged to do when he was elected, which is that he will not use any funds to use the border law? What will you tell?
Let's make this really clear. The facts are that this is not new, right? This is something that came from the last administration under the Republican leadership in fiscal year 2019, and we are required to do this. We are required, DHS is required to comply by the law.
Help with the situation in Texas?
We believe that a border wall is not effective. You heard that from the president when your colleague Selena asked him directly. He said, we don't believe it's effective.
If you have to build a border wall, but you don't think that it's going to work, then once it's done, are you just going to tear it down?
I'm not getting into hypotheticals from here. I'm just telling you what I can tell you from here. The facts are that DHS is complying with the law. This is from this was under fiscal year 2019 under Republican leadership, and DHS is required to do this. The president asked multiple times of Congress to reappropriate. They did not, and we're not complying by the law. Thanks, everybody.
If the border wall is ineffective, why is the Homeland Security Secretary saying that it's necessary to prevent unlawful entries into the United States?
I have not seen that full statement. I know. I hear you. I'm just saying I have not seen his full statement on that.
Said in 2020 as a candidate, so after this law was passed in 2019, that there will not be another foot of wall constructed in my administration. How can you say that he's not breaking that promise?
Well, what I can say is that there's a law that the DHS is complying with. We believe in the rule of law, and that's what we're moving forward with.
Of course, nothing but more incoherent, blabbering nonsense. A bunch of ridiculous BS justification, a whole lot of words, not much being said, because they know. What do they know? They know they're massive, frickin' flaming hypocrites. They know they're full of it, and they'd rather answer an empty political rhetoric, empty political non-answers, rather than admit that they were wrong. And that's a little nice piece of projection, you know? They're constantly pointing the finger at Donald Trump, claiming he's a narcissist, he never admits fault, he always doubles down, and to a certain extent that's true, you know? I mean, even coming from the most vehement Trump supporter, they'll be able to pretty much agree with that. Does Trump have a little bit of an ego problem? Sure. Is an ego problem even a bad thing in politics? Maybe. It can be dangerous, but to a certain extent you need a little bit of a big ego to be a politician or a great leader. But the Democrats have been pointing the finger at Donald Trump, claiming he never admits when he's wrong. He's a petulant child throwing tantrums all the time. But it's pure projection because they're 10 times worse than he is on all the things that they point the finger at. Russia collusion. They're the ones who colluded with Russians. Abuse of power. They're the ones abusing power and politicizing the DOJ. The constant lying. 30,000 lies throughout Donald Trump's first term. A completely bogus, totally not fact-based talking point, but nonetheless, all the lying from the Trump administration is what they say. Joe Biden hasn't said a true thing. Neither has Jen Psaki or Karine Jean-Pierre or any of them for the last 3 years. All they do is lie. Literally, like every single word that comes out of their mouth is a lie. And now Donald Trump never admits when he's wrong. Yeah, Democrats haven't admitted that they've made a mistake for decades. Everything the Democrats do is a mistake. Everything they do, all their policies, all their bills, there's always some sort of unexpected and in many cases expected consequence. And not once have they said, we were wrong. They reverse course every now and then, but they won't publicly admit that they were wrong. They'll just go in circles, talking in empty platitudes, somehow trying to explain that actually, no, nothing's changed. We were never inconsistent. It's just the current circumstance. We don't have a choice. Of course you have a choice. Everyone has a choice. The Democrats have a simple choice here. Be honest, fact-based, common sense human beings, or be dishonest little politician rats, and Democrats choose the latter 10 out of 10 times. I'm honestly a little bit flabbergasted. I'm a little bit at a loss for words on this one. After all the executive orders, after the expulsion of Title 42, and of course after all the rhetoric, all the sanctuary city nonsense, after all the empty promises of work and amnesty, which the cartel used, of course, to make billions human smuggling, after all of it, after what seems to be purposely causing a border crisis all of a sudden 3 years later, now they're going to do something about border security, which is a little bit interesting coming from the White House because they've said nothing but the border is secure for the last 3 years.
The president has done more to secure the border and to deal with this issue of immigration than anybody else. He really has.
It is my testimony that the border is secure.
We have a secure border.
We agree that the border is secure.
The border is secure.
After telling us the border's secure, all of a sudden now we're finding out that no, the border isn't secure and there's a pressing issue to build a border wall. Make it make sense, folks. You can't, because it doesn't. The only thing that makes sense, the only thing that's clear and true, is that these people cannot be trusted. They are dishonest, they are liars, and they will do and say anything as long as it's an election season. Joe's losing on all the issues. The immigration crisis is coming to a peak here, as it's now affecting Democrat cities, and now, in an election season, Joe's gonna do something about it. Except he's not actually, he's just posturing and pretending, so he can hopefully recoup some points on this particular issue as people head to the ballot box in roughly a year or so. Complete freaks. The level of manipulation and dishonesty is on a whole other level. That's what I got for you guys on this one, though. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.